What went through your mind when you watched the Saints and Bucs exchange blows, literally, after the figurative version of it for 2+ quarters? What'd you think of that one?
Well, it's funny because those games are always slugfest. You can definitely bet the under anytime they play. And the Bucs are going to have to win with the run game and on defense. I mean, it's just the way things are. As an aside, before we talk about that fight or whatever you want to call it,
sure.
We didn't count Brady out the year their defense was dominant late in his tenure in New England. We didn't count them out. I think it was 2019. It was my first year out, and they were on this historic pace defensively. And they don't have half the players on that defense that the Bucs do. I mean, they have a ton of playmakers. And offensively, even though the line between, a lot of new exciting weapons and just some alarming options to throw to outside is pretty thin, like they can still compete in the NFC. And if you play defense like that, any given Sunday. So, definitely a good sign for the Bucs pulling that one out. The Saints have owned them. And Mike Evans, who has a history with Lattimore, which is going to become relevant when they hand down whatever suspension or punishment. The same thing happened a couple years ago. He's going to bat for Brady, which is interesting. The whole, it's Tom Brady. What do you want me to do? A lot of people question Tom taking a break. A lot of people wondered what that was going to do for the locker room. Tom Brady's the GOAT, and people recognize him as such, and they also really like Tom. And so people going to bat for Tom is not a surprise to me. But a lot of times, as a player, you'll be laying in bed the night before the game, and if you hate somebody on the other team, you're running through scenarios where you're like, if he does X, I have to do Y. You're almost anticipating the conflict, and I think Mike Evans was just waiting. And he was a little frustrated because the game wasn't getting going for him. I wonder what Bruce Arians said to him, and I wonder what Marshawn Lattimore said to Brady, because those are the two things that if I could wave a wand and be a fly on the wall, that's one of the awards we give out on our show. I'd love to know what was said in that exchange that made Mike Evans run off the sideline.
Take your best guess, Chris. Take your best shot.
Personal? I don't know, dude. I don't want to speculate, but for Mike Evans to lose it like that, I mean, either Bruce kind of, Bruce put a battery in his back, or he heard something he really didn't like. But there's so much that goes on during a game that we don't notice, right? There could have been 3-4 instances where this was boiling over during the game, and we just didn't see it, and this was the tipping point.
And Brady, Chris Long, has beaten the Cowboys when Dak was healthy, right, for 3 3/4, and wins in Dallas to start the season. And then the bugaboo for him, since being the Bucs quarterback, certainly in the regular season, was winning in New Orleans in a slugfest in a game where he's feeling pressured and he is feeling frustrated. And they came out with the win. They're 2-0. Are they? I would imagine they're the team to beat in the NFC right now.
Well,
wouldn't you agree, or no?
Yeah. Well, you've got issues out west, right? I think the team to beat in the NFC is the Niners, especially in light of what happened yesterday.
Why is that?
Trey Lance, because Jimmy G's gotten them there. I mean, Jimmy G had them a quarter away. They beat the defending Super Bowl champions twice last year. I think they're the most complete roster in the NFC, you could argue. And Jimmy G knows how to run the offense. So I think you're cutting hairs here, but the Niners, the Bucs, sure, the Packers, you need to see more. I think, shout out to my co-host Macon, who thinks the Vikings are the team to beat in the NFC. I think the Vikings are a provocative team to take a look at, but the Eagles are really stacked, right? So there's a lot of question marks, and teams in the NFC are built in a lot of different ways. So the matchups are going to be very interesting. So next 2 weeks for the Bucs, you get the Packers at home and you get the Chiefs at home. And I think what's really interesting is when Brady took that break, Rich, my biggest concern wasn't morale, it wasn't chemistry, it was quarterback center exchange, cadence, the whole operations of that offense and how they would run, because you need those reps. And to start on the road in two of the toughest places to play, well, especially New Orleans, against a team that, you're going to have to go silent count. They've gotten you. They can man up. They can cover your guys. They're physical. And then Dallas with those rushers, especially Michael Parsons, to pull out wins in those situations makes you feel good if you're a Bucs fan.